For those of y'all that have been a fan of the channel for a while, you'll know that I'm currently rocking 10 different credit cards that I use all on a pretty consistent basis. And now that we're moving into a new year, just like I did last year, I thought it'd be fun for me to go ahead and tell y'all all of the points that I've earned on each one of those cards, as well as how much all of those points are actually worth in monetary form. So whether you're somebody that's been in the credit card game for years and you just love it, or you're somebody that's only ever used debit cards, I hope by the end of this video, I can just show y'all the power that the credit card game has to offer if you use your cards responsibly. And the way I'm going to go about showing y'all all of my data is in this spreadsheet that I created a while back. And what it does is basically break down all the points I earned on each one of my cards in 3 different categories. The first one being from welcome offers, then from referral bonuses, and lastly from spending on my cards outside of the welcome offers. And then what I'm going to do is of course total up all of the points across all of my cards and then break down the monetary value of those points based on 3 different redemption methods. One being cashback, the second being through the travel portals, and third through transfer partners. And then after that, since I do have credit cards from so many different lenders, I thought it'd be fun to break down the value I earned from each one of the lenders so you can see kind of how I personally value those points. And just like I said in the intro of my video last year, stick around to the end of this one because that final number may surprise you. Okay, well, welcome to my spreadsheet, and with all the stuff we got to get through, I'm just going to dive in with card number 1, my OG Chase Freedom. A lot of y'all know this already, but my OG Chase Freedom was product change from my Chase Freedom Student, which was my first ever credit card. And the reason I did that was to capitalize on the 5x rotating quarterly categories that the Chase Freedom card offers. Now, since I opened this card back in 2020, of course, I did not get a welcome offer this year on it, and it was complete back then. And since this card is not a card you can apply for with Chase anymore, my referral bonuses on this card were 0. And I don't really put a lot of spend on this card. I actually did most all of it in this final quarter of this year because I've been using, PayPal to get 5x back on a lot of my purchases. And that just comes out to a total of 3,131 points that I've earned from spending on this card, which also equals, of course, my total points earned on this card this year. Let's just go ahead and fill out this quick section first. That way we can get into the actual value at the end. So moving into card number 2, my Chase Freedom Unlimited. Once again, did not open this card this year, so no welcome offer complete in 2023. I was very fortunate to be able to max out my referrals on this card this year, thanks to you guys. So that gave me a total of 50,000 points. And since I'm talking about referral bonuses here, I just want to take the time to tell y'all thank you so much for using my links. Whenever I say that by using my links, you directly support the channel, that is exactly what's going on here with these referral bonuses. And in turn, what I like to do with my referral points is reinvest those in the business somehow, either by taking business trips on my points or by literally buying hardware like my MacBook Pro, which y'all saw me redeem points for a while back. So these numbers for referral bonuses are going to get much crazier than this, but I just want to say up front that that is all thanks to you guys, and I do really try my best to not use these points for personal gain necessarily, and instead use my welcome offer points and my spending points for my personal trips and stuff like that, while reinvesting my referral points back into the business in some way. But again, just thank y'all for even giving me the opportunity to make that distinction. As for spending on this card though, I used to use it for literally all of my catch-all purchases until I opened the Capital One Venture X this year, so not too much spend went on this card, and it just totaled out to 5,420 points, bringing my total points on this card to 55,420 points. Now it's time to talk about my Chase Sapphire Reserve, which really was the Chase Sapphire Preferred for most of this year. So of course I did not get a welcome offer on this card this year. I completed it back in 2022 when it was the Preferred, but I product changed the Preferred to the Reserve this year, not sacrificing any welcome bonus opportunity because I can't get another welcome bonus on it until 2026. But in doing that, I knew that I would actually use the benefits on the card more and would actually, use it in my wallet more, hence why I made the product change when I did. But while it was a Chase Sapphire Preferred, I was able to max out my referral bonuses once again at 75,000 points. And then spending wise, it didn't catch a ton of spend at all this year because the Preferred really just is not a high earner, and I only earned 833 points. So obviously nothing crazy there, but in changing it to the Reserve, I think I'll actually use it a lot more. So that brings my total points on this card to 75,833 points. Now moving to the Citi Custom Cash, once again completed the welcome offer back in 2022, so no points there. And Citi does not have any referral program, so no referral points on this card either. Now for spending, I use this card as my dedicated gas credit card, giving me 5x back on all of those purchases, and in doing so, I accumulated 6,698 points from those purchases this year. Keep in mind too though that a lot of the spends on these cards that I've had for a while are actually going to be very low in the amount of points I've earned because I focus most of my spend on other credit cards I opened this year instead. So we'll see these numbers down here be a lot higher than these, and that's the reason why. But the total points on my Citi Custom Cash is the same as my spending multiplier here, that being 6,698 points. Now we can get into a little bit of a more exciting card, the Amex Gold Card, which y'all know I use for all of my food purchases, dining, and groceries. No welcome offer on it though, once again, because I opened it in 2022. But as for my referral bonuses, with both my Amex cards this year, the cap was 100,000 points, and y'all knocked both of those out of the park. But for this card, 100,000 points in referral bonuses. And then for spending on this card, since I do funnel a lot of spend through it, that was a total of 24,284 points. Interestingly enough, though, I have switched my dining spend back to my Chase Sapphire Reserve now, and that's because I'm very low on Chase points, but have a surplus of Amex points, so I'm trying to balance those out. But of course, the total amount of points from my Amex Gold card was 124,284 points. I promise we're about to get to a card that I actually opened this year, but next up we have the Amex Blue Business Plus, which I got a welcome offer for back in 2022. And again, like I said, maxed out my referral bonuses once again on this card for a total of 100,000 points. As for spending, this is my most heavily used business credit card because it gets 2x back on everything. But once again, this number is lower than expected, maybe because I did funnel a lot of my business spend through these other cards I opened this year in order to hit the welcome offers. But I still was able to accumulate 11,158 points, bringing my total on this card to 111,158 points. And now we finally get to our first card that I actually finished a welcome offer for in this year, even though I applied for it at the very end of 2022, that being my Chase Inc. Cash. So the welcome offer I got on this card was for a whopping 90,000 points, which is the public welcome offer on this card right now. As always, I have that link down below for you if you want to support the channel. And I know y'all hear me talk about this offer a lot, but that's because this is a no annual fee credit card that is offering you 90,000 Chase points. And although you have to spend $6,000 in 3 months to hit that, it is just an insane amount of value for a no annual fee card, so I would highly recommend you at least look into this. The same thing goes for the Chase Inc. Unlimited, by the way, but I only have the Chase Inc. Cash right now. And then when we get to the referral bonuses for this card, I already know that this is going to blow a lot of people away, including myself, but Chase actually allows you to earn up to 200,000 points in referral bonuses on, I think, like all of the Chase Inc. cards. And I wasn't able to quite max mine out exactly, but I was able to accumulate 180,000 Chase Ultimate Rewards points from referral bonuses on this card. So thank y'all so much for this. And as for spending, since I had to hit that $6,000 worth of spend and also just have some other purchases on this card here and there, I've earned 10,550 points. So obviously you're about to have a big number here for the total points on this card, but that comes out to 280,550 points. So again, take away the referral bonuses here, I still earned over 100,000 points on this card for a no annual fee credit card right now. So if you're under 524 and are interested in business credit cards at all, first of all, you can watch the video I made about business credit cards and why you should be interested, but definitely have your eyes out for these no annual fee Chase Inc. cards. Then I got back into my personal credit card hunt with the Capital One Venture X, and the welcome offer back then was for 75,000 points. That is still the public welcome offer, which I have linked in all my descriptions, but I do know that at the time of me filming, they have a refer a friend link that will give you up to 90,000 points. So maybe check those out if you want even more points, obviously. I was also blessed to be able to max out my referrals on this card with 4 different people applying for the card, giving me 25,000 points each for a total of course, 100,000 points. And since I used it as my catch-all for a lot of this year, I was able to accumulate a good amount of points, at least for my spend, that being 17,244 points. That brings my total points on the Capital One Venture X to 192,244 points. So obviously quite a lot. Now we have an interesting little card here that I applied for in April of 2023, that being the Amex Amazon Prime Business Card, because I didn't want to add to my 524 account with the personal version, and this card gives me exactly the same thing. Well, at least with the 5x back on Amazon purchases. So the welcome offer I got on that one was for a small $125 Amazon gift card that I used the same exact day to buy a studio light for my setup, so reinvested right back into the business literally within seconds. Referral bonuses on this card are really hard to track, and I honestly don't know if this is accurate, but technically I think I saw that I had like $75 worth of referrals on this card, so thank y'all for using the link for that. And then in spending on this card so far this year, which I put all of my Amazon spend on this card, through the 5x back categories, I was able to accumulate $127. That brings my total points on this card, or cashback in this case, to $327. And when I say cashback, I mean Amazon cashback. You can't, take this out and use it elsewhere necessarily, but I just constantly use that money for my Amazon purchases to help give me a discount. So that's how that's used. Now we come down to my most recent credit card that I've added so far, that being the Marriott Bonvoy Boundless card, and this one gets pretty interesting. So as for the welcome offer on it, it's a little bit weird because I got a 5 free night certificate offer after spending like $5,000 in 3 months on this card, I believe. And each one of those free night certificates is worth up to 50,000 points. So the way that I put it in this spreadsheet in order to make all the calculations work is that I put a total of 250,000 points for this welcome offer, because that is effectively how many points I got deposited to my account, even though they weren't actually deposited as points, but free night certificates instead. And referrals on this card, y'all max this out, I think, like before I even receive leave the card, which was insane to me. But y'all were able to give me a total of 200,000 Marriott Bonvoy points, 72,000 of which I've already used for a business trip to Florida to film that Creator Conversations with CJ and Chad. But thank y'all again for that. And also tell me where you think I should be using my 5 free night certificates from the welcome offer, because I honestly don't know yet. And then in order to hit the welcome offer, obviously I had to spend on this card, and I do put, I guess, like Marriott spend on it these days, but I was able to accumulate 13,891 points for that spend. Total points on that card technically comes out to 463,891 points, but of course 250,000 of that is not actually deposited to my account in point form. Now that we're here, we might as well sum up all of these columns here so we can see how much I earned from welcome offers, referral bonuses, and spending this year. Starting with my welcome offers, I technically earned a total of 415,000 points, but that's give or take the 250K from my Boundless card, depending on how you want to calculate that. As for referral bonuses, this number is absolutely insane to me, and that's 805,000 points. Once again, like I said, I tried to reinvest as much of this as I can into the business for my business trips and stuff like that. And most of my personal trips are going to come from my welcome offers as well as my spending, which we'll talk about here in a second. But I know some of y'all will see that number and for some reason just hate me for it. And I can see where you're coming from to a degree, but I really want to take the time in this video to say that I really appreciate those of you that do just fully support me. And by using my referral links, you are directly supporting the channel. I say that a lot, but it seriously does help out. So thank you again for doing that. Now moving into the total points from spending, aside from the welcome offers, of course, I earned 93,209 points. So without referral bonuses taken into account, I earned a roughly 500,000 points in value from my cards this year, which is pretty insane, especially for a low spender like myself. But if we were to add in the referral bonuses, that's where we get to a grand total of 1,313,209 points. And remember, we're not quite to the end of December yet. I'm recording this on December 13th. So maybe I earn a couple thousand more points, a few thousand more points, but we'll call it like 1.32 million credit card points this year for me, which is just insane. And when I say it's insane, I mean that I'm insanely blessed, not that like I've done something crazy cool here, because it's not me that's doing it. It's also in big part thanks to y'all. Man, this video is going to be a long one, but let me go ahead and just try to zoom through all of these values here and make it as educational as possible. First of all, I want to call out that I've put the type of points that I've earned on each of these cards in this column. That way we can see, the total cashback, travel portal, and transport partner value. And the reason that these types of points matter is because the value of these different redemption methods is going to change depending on the lender, which is also why I have this whole section dedicated to the different lenders down here. What I'm basically going to do is take one of each of these cards from the specific type and tell you why I have the multipliers on these columns that I do. And then we'll just zoom through the other cards with that same type without me explaining it every single time. So let's start with our Chase cards here, because that makes the most sense. I love Chase, so let's start with them. And the way that I've calculated cashback value is just by dividing these total amount of points that I've earned on each of these cards by 100, because that's how you get cashback value, at least for Chase points. That's going to be 1 cent per point for all of your Chase points. And while I don't recommend you actually redeem your Chase points in this fashion, I just want to show you the value that they do have. When it comes to travel portal value, I am now able to take that same ratio, the total points divided by 100, to get that 1 cent per point cashback value. And then I can multiply by 1.5 because my Chase Sapphire reserve gives me a 50% boost on my points in Chase's travel portal. And if you had the Chase Sapphire preferred, you would multiply by 1.25, but I think you get the point there. And as for transfer partner value, I do have a multiple of 2 on this, even though in the past I have only gotten, some redemptions for like 1.3 cents per point. And then I have some out there that are for like 4 cents per point. So on average, it's roughly 2, I would say, especially if you're using your Chase points with Hyatt. So I'd say this is a pretty conservative estimate for most people, including myself. Now, with that explanation being done for my Chase points, let's go ahead and break down all of the values from my Chase cards this year. Starting with the cashback value from my OG Chase Freedom, I earned $31, so nothing crazy. From my Chase Freedom Unlimited, I earned $554 worth of cashback value. For my Chase Sapphire Preferred / Reserve this year, I earned a total of $758 worth of cashback value. Then skipping all the way down here to my Chase Inc. Cash, which is obviously going to be the biggest number here today. In cash back, I was able to accumulate $2,806 on this card. Now, again, not recommending you use your Chase points this way. I would at least be using them through the travel portal if you get a multiple on them. But more specifically, I would recommend using them with transfer partners, and technically Hyatt or the international airlines would be your best bet. Now, for the travel portal value of all of my Chase cards, it's basically going to be all of these numbers multiplied by 1.5. So on my OG Chase Freedom, that comes out to $47. On my Chase Freedom Unlimited, that will come out to $831. And then for the Chase Sapphire Reserve, that would be $1,137, crossing that 4-figure mark. So that's great to see. But then with my Chase Ink Cash, that's obviously going to be much higher at $4,208 worth of travel portal value. Now, travel portals are interesting with Chase with that 50% boost. A 1.5 cent per point redemption rate in the travel portal actually is not bad at all, especially if you're booking either hotels that are, like boutique and they're not actually able to have points transferred to them, or if you are booking some domestic flights, because 1.5 cents per point is among the highest of the values you'll get for domestic flights, unless you're doing that whole airline alliance thing like I was talking about earlier. But of course, I'll make more videos on that when it's time. And while you might be thinking that those travel portal values are really high and that's really amazing, wait until we see the transfer partner value. Again, this is a conservative estimate of 2 cents per point, but rolling through these, we're going to see my OG Chase Freedom gave me $63. My Chase Freedom Unlimited gave me $1,108. My Chase Sapphire Preferred / Reserve gave me $1,517. And my Chase Ink Cash, of course, with that highest value, is going to be $5,611. So before we get into the other lenders, let me just remind you what we're doing here. This is not exactly realized gains that I've had on any of these cards so far, but this is the total amount of value I could get from these cards in each one of these categories. And the only one that is unknown is technically the transfer partner value for all of these cards, because yes, I put 2 cents per point for my Chase points, but technically I could get a 10 cent per point redemption randomly, and that would boost the value of these points. But a conservative estimate of 2 is what we're going with here. Now let's move into my Amex cards, because I do have a couple of those. As for my cashback value here, as you can see at the top in this formula, I did the same calculation to get it into cent per point form by dividing my total points earned by 100, but I multiplied it by 0.6 because if you were to redeem Amex points for cashback, I'm talking Amex membership rewards points, there are Amex cashback earning cards, but that's not what I have. The maximum amount of value you can get in cashback form is 0.6 cents per point, which is terrible. Do not do that. But for the sake of the argument, I did include it in this table. So at the end, we can see the difference between all of the values I got. As for travel portal value, I have no way really to get more than 1 cent per point in the travel portal. And theoretically, I only usually get like 0.7 depending on what I'm booking. But for this case, I'm just going to say that I get 1 cent per point for all of my Amex points. And that's why I just did the straight up total points divided by 100. My transfer partner value for Amex points, I keep the same as Chase points at 2 cents per point, but the same logic applies where maybe I could get 10 cents per point for one redemption and sometimes I only get 1.2 for others. But in reality, we should be aiming to get at least 2 cents per point where we can. So now for my Amex Gold card, the total cashback value of those points would be $746, which is pretty crazy considering that's at a 0.6 cents per point valuation. And for my Amex Blue Business Plus, that would be $667. Taking a step up to 1 cent per point through the travel portal, we can see that my Amex Gold gave me $1,243, and my Amex Blue Business Plus comes out to $1,112. So definitely not bad value here, but the transfer partner value of Amex points is where they really come to play. Starting with my Amex Gold, once again, the total points earned would net me technically $2,486 worth of travel portal value, and for my Amex Blue Business Plus, that comes out to $2,223. So that's all my Amex cards for this year. Technically, I do have the Amex Amazon Prime Business, but that's a separate kind of calculation there. So next, let me just go ahead and dive into Citi's valuation. I'm going to keep moving through these pretty quickly, but if you need to rewind to understand what I'm saying, please feel free to do so. And of course, I have other videos on my channel that explain each one of these little tiny things I'm saying in a lot more detail. So go check out the channel for those. And apologies if I'm going way too quick for you, but I don't want you to have to sit here for 45 minutes of me just going through the spreadsheet. So for my Citi Custom Cash, I only have the Citi Custom Cash. So that means that I do not have the ability to transfer my points out to Citi's travel partners, and you need a card like the Citi Premier in order to do that. So for me, I don't even have access to transfer partners, which is why this is going to be just completely non-applicable. But for my travel portal and cashback value, both of those are going to be sitting at 1 cent per point, taking my total points earned on this card, dividing by 100 to give me that value. That's because the travel portal with Citi is also, going to give you 1 cent per point, and cashback is going to give you the same. So that's why it's a very flexible currency. If I had access to the transfer partners, I would also value these points at 2 cents per point. And that's a big reason why I haven't redeemed any of my Citi thank you points yet, because I am waiting for when I get the Citi Premier, hopefully one day. But the cashback and travel portal value for these points is $67 for this year. So a lot of words to basically give me no value there. Moving on to my Capital One Venture X and my Capital One miles that I earned this year. Since I only have the Capital One Venture X, my cashback value for these points is very low. But if you had a card like the Saver One and you were trying to do these calculations, obviously your formulas would change a bit. But for me, once again, with only the Capital One Venture X, my miles are only worth half a cent per point in cashback form. Hence why the formula is my total points earned on the card divided by 100 to get in that cent per point form, then multiplying by 0.5 because they're only worth half a cent per point because I only have the Capital One Venture X. The travel portal value is going to be the same as a lot of the others here at 1 cent per point because it's basically just a straight, going rate for Capital One miles, and they want you to use them through their portal, so they keep everything pretty simple there. But if you learn how to use their transfer partners, like all the other ones here, I'm going to value those points at 2 cents per point because I theoretically am using them for international trips, which yield higher cent per point values. So going back to the cashback value on my Capital One Venture X, I earned a total of $961. So not bad for half a cent per point, but I'm never going to redeem in that fashion. Through the travel portal at 1 cent per point, I would get $1,922. Maybe in a pinch I would use this, but not very frequently. And then for transfer partner value, of course, it'll have the biggest number here at $3,845. All right, let's keep kicking through the last two here. My Amex Amazon Prime business card earns just Amazon points basically. And since that is just cashback value, technically, I'm only including it in that column, making these last two non-applicable. And of course, this is already set up in cash form. So this is obviously very easy calculation here, and it matches my total cashback earned of $327. No crazy calculations there, so maybe a breath of fresh air for y'all. Then lastly, I got my Marriott Bonvoy Boundless points. Now this one's interesting because it's a hotel currency, makes it a little bit hard to add into these columns here because technically, do you put it as travel portal value or transfer partner value? What I decided to do was actually put it in both at the same redemption rate. And for cashback, there's no way to redeem these in cashback, so just non-applicable. But if you look up the points guide valuation of Marriott points, you're technically going to be getting roughly 0.84 cents per points for your bookings, which is exactly what I got on that Florida trip, funny enough. So obviously pretty accurate there. But if you take that total number of points I've earned this year, divide it by 100 and multiply by 0.84, that's where we're going to get our valuations here. And since they're the same, let's reveal them both at the same time at a grand total of $3,897. Again, remember that these total points include 250,000 points from the welcome offer, which isn't technically right, but in order to give us this actual value, that is accurate. Okay, so now I gotta take a sip of water in a second because that's a lot of talking, but we just need to get through these last two tables to have everything come together. All right, now we get into the lender by lender breakdown. And this is where things get fun because you're able to see exactly how many points I earned from each of these lenders and what value those lenders gave me. Kind of like seeing how much money I was able to take from the banks this year. We'll just go through these one by one, starting with my Chase points. I was able to earn a total of 414,934 points. At a 1 cent per point cashback value, that's going to give me $4,149. At a 1.5 cent per point travel portal value, that would give me $6,224. And with a conservative 2 cent per point valuation when transferring these points out to partners, that would give me a final value of $8,299. So I guess I haven't said this yet, but this should be somewhat obvious. In general, I want to always first look to use my points with transfer partners, unless in some specific niche cases, the travel portal actually gives me good value for the type of either hotel or airline I'm trying to book. And cashback for me really only applies to the Amazon card because I don't want to redeem any of my other points for cashback if I can help it. But now let's move on to my Amex membership rewards points, which did net me quite a few points, that being 235,442 points. And you may be like, oh, that's not a ton, but that's because, hold on, we do have some Rakuten points down here that I want to be, again, open and transparent with y'all about. So we'll talk about those in a second. The cashback value of those 235-ish thousand points is $1,413. And remember, that's at a 0.6 cent per point rate, so don't do that. In the travel portal, that would net me 2,354 points at 1 cent per point. But with transfer partners, the preferred method, I'd be getting $4,709 worth of value at a 2 cent per point redemption rate. Now with Rakuten, again, because of y'all just using my links down below, I don't mention Rakuten very much at all, but y'all just, use it. You get a free $30 or whatever it is, and I get a free $30. Like, it just works really well. I was able to accumulate a total of 196,765 points. And that's insane. And that makes my total Amex points for the year more than my Chase points. So again, thank y'all for that. So let's just go ahead and reveal the value for all of those points since it's the exact same as my other Amex points. And that you can see here with the number of note being the transfer partner value of $3,997. $135. Now for these last few down here, I'm actually not going to talk through them anymore to save y'all some time because it's the exact same thing as above. But now you can see the total amount of points earned with each of my lenders, the cashback value for all of those, the travel portal value, and the transfer partner value. And now we can get into the fun numbers down here, which is everything combined. So drum rolls please on this because it's going to be exciting. The final cashback value for all of my points, if I was to sit here and literally cash out all of them, if I still had them, which I don't because I redeemed a lot of these, I would have been able to get a total of $8,097. Now that sounds amazing at face value, and it is really amazing. But remember that this is not the optimal way to be redeeming your points unless you are somebody on Team Cashback, and in that case, you probably wouldn't even have a lot of the cards that I do anyways. But overall, that's just a ton of value to be able to be had. Although of course the travel portal value is going to be a lot higher. So let's see what that one is, coming in at $16,432. That is crazy to me. I honestly just had to check all my work. So I was like, wow, that's a ton of money. But yeah, I mean, it looks like it all checks out. And that is what happens whenever you just change from being on Team Cashback with transferable currency credit cards to at least just using them through the travel portal. And if you're on Team Travel, that should be like the bare minimum you do. But now at a roughly 2 cent per point value for all of my points that I've earned that are able to be used with transfer partners, we come out to a grand total of $24,684 worth of credit card points earned in 2023. Let me reiterate maybe a 10th time in this video. This is technically not a very high estimation for transfer partner value. If you're somebody that only ever books international trips in business or first class or whatever, which I don't necessarily recommend that you save all your points for, but you can if you want, technically this value could be much higher, say 2 to 5 times the value. Now, if that was the case, I could technically sit here and claim that I was able to earn $100,000 worth of credit card points this year, but of course that's obviously stretching it. So instead, I think what I have down here on paper is actually a very reasonable estimation. And that's because I also will utilize transfer partners that have lower values than 2 cents per point, while also utilizing some that have higher than that, say at like 4 or 5 cents per point. But your numbers may vary here. This is just what I've put in, and I just want to explain myself so you're not like, well, where'd you get that number from? Hopefully by me laying out these numbers one by one, you can really see how these numbers came about. And if I made a mistake, please correct me, but hopefully I didn't. And at this point, I also want to remind y'all once again that yes, a lot of these points came from referral bonuses. But at the same time, if you took all of those numbers away, I still earned a ton of value, thousands of dollars worth of free travel by just hitting welcome offers as well as spending normally on my cards. And that's why I talk about welcome offers so positively, because without those, I really wouldn't have earned that much value at all. Let's say that I didn't spend towards any new welcome offers this year. That would get rid of like 400,000 of the points that I earned. Maybe I earned 200,000, 300,000 points in a year instead of, 500 plus thousand with the welcome offers. That would literally cut my valuation in half right there. So that's why I just wanted to reiterate that welcome offers are amazing as long as they fit into your natural spending habits. Don't go out there getting credit cards that have welcome offer spending requirements that you actually can't hit, because if you do so, that nullifies all the value you got from your credit cards that year, especially if you go into credit card debt because of that. And of course, that's not what I want y'all to be ending up doing. Now, this video really was just a long-winded way to show y'all why I personally love the credit card game so much. The fact that I was able to accumulate, say, $25,000 worth of free travel in 1 year by just using my credit cards responsibly, paying them off on time and in full every single month, applying for cards when they actually make sense for me, and can now make experiences with my loved ones that I probably never would have been able to make in cash. That's what it's all about to me. Redemption rates at the end of the day, I don't really care about. I just want y'all to maximize them as much as you can while actually using your points. And maybe at the end of this though, you're sitting here like, well, I don't want to apply for 10 different credit cards. I just want to use the ones that I do have. I know I'm going to give up some value from the welcome offers, but what can I do? Well, if you want to optimize your spend better and raise your credit score without adding a ton of new credit lines to your overall portfolio, which isn't a bad thing, but still, if you don't want to do that and instead you want to raise the credit limits on your current credit cards, go ahead and check out this video next, where I was able to raise my current credit cards limits by $28,500 all in one day. And with all of that being said, yes, Odin is back in the building, but we both want to say thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you did enjoy it, please consider leaving a like and subscribing to the channel, and we'll catch you guys next time.